In early February 2025, President Donald Trump announced significant changes to U.S. trade policy that included the implementation of a 10% tariff on imports from China and a 25% tariff on goods from Canada and Mexico. This announcement marked a decisive move to eliminate the long-standing de minimis provision which had previously allowed goods valued under $800 to enter the United States without incurring tariffs. This change is poised to have far-reaching consequences for e-commerce giants such as Temu, Shein and Alibaba, all of which have thrived under the de minimis exemption. Overview of the changes. The de minimis rule, established in the 1930s, was designed to facilitate trade by allowing small shipments to enter the U.S. without customs duties. However, in recent years, its application has come under scrutiny. Data from U.S. Customs and Border Protection revealed a dramatic increase in de minimis shipments, from 139 million in 2015 to over 1.3 billion in 2024. This growth has been largely attributed to Chinese retailers capitalizing on this loophole, allowing them to offer competitively low prices and bypass the more substantial tariffs associated with bulk shipments. The Trump administration justified the tariff changes by citing the need to enhance revenue collection and improve customs enforcement against illicit goods such as fentanyl, which have been entering the U.S. through these small shipments. A senior official noted that the de minimis exemption complicates inspections, thereby increasing risks associated with illegal imports. Impact on e-commerce retailers. The new tariffs, which took effect at 12:01 a.m. on February 3, 2025, are expected to hit Chinese e-commerce platforms the hardest. Retailers like Temu and Shein have already begun adjusting their operational strategies in anticipation of the tariffs. Temu has started shipping larger quantities of goods to U.S. warehouses, which allows for quicker delivery times while still complying with the new tariffs. Shein has also invested in establishing distribution centers within the U.S. to mitigate the impact of the tariff changes. The elimination of the de minimis provision poses a significant challenge for these companies, which have built their business models around the ability to ship individual items directly to consumers at low prices. The tariffs could lead to increased costs for consumers, particularly those who rely on affordable options for clothing and household goods. Broader market dynamics. The shift in trade policy is expected to alter market dynamics significantly. U.S.-based retailers, particularly Amazon, could benefit from the clampdown on their Chinese competitors. Amazon has already been working to launch its own bargain outlet called Haul, which allows third-party sellers to ship goods directly from China while utilizing the de minimis rule to avoid tariffs. However, with the rule now abolished, Amazon and other U.S. retailers may see a resurgence in their sales as Chinese competitors face increased operational costs. Experts have noted that the removal of the de minimis threshold will disproportionately affect low-income consumers who depend on low-cost offerings from platforms like Temu and Shein. Economists estimate that more than 10% of China's exports to the U.S. were facilitated through de minimis shipments, amounting to approximately $48 billion worth of goods in the first 9 months of 2024 alone. Responses from affected companies. In light of the impending tariff changes, representatives from Temu, Shein, and Alibaba were quick to adapt their strategies. Temu, for instance, has begun onboarding Chinese sellers who can stock inventory in U.S. warehouses, allowing for faster shipping while still navigating the new tariffs. Shein has similarly focused on compliance and has publicly stated that import adherence is a priority. The company's executive chairman has also expressed support for reforming the de minimis rule, acknowledging its need for modernization. Conclusion. The U.S. government's decision to abolish the de minimis threshold and impose new tariffs represents a significant shift in trade policy aimed at curbing the advantages held by Chinese e-commerce platforms. As these tariffs come into effect, the full extent of their impact on U.S. consumers, domestic retailers, and the broader e-commerce landscape will gradually unfold. The ongoing adjustments by companies like Temu and Shein will reveal how adaptable these platforms can be in the face of evolving trade regulations and the competitive landscape. The outcome of these changes will be closely monitored as they may set a precedent for future international trade practices between the U.S. and its trading partners. The U.S. government's decision to impose a 10% tariff on imports from China while eliminating the de minimis threshold for duty-free shipments valued under $800 is set to reshape the landscape for e-commerce, particularly affecting platforms like Temu, Shein, and Taobao. While many anticipate that the tariffs will lead to higher prices for consumers, some counterintuitive implications arise from this policy shift. 1. Potential benefits for U.S. retailers. Although the tariffs are intended to level the playing field, U.S.-based retailers, especially those with established supply chains, may benefit from reduced competition. As e-commerce giants like Temu and Shein struggle to adapt their business models to the new tariffs, there may be a significant shift in market dynamics favoring domestic retailers. This could enable American companies to capture a larger share of the market, potentially leading to increased prices and profits for them, which might contradict the initial goal of protecting consumer interests. 2. Impact on consumer behavior. While it is widely believed that tariffs will lead to increased prices for consumers, it may also result in a shift in consumer purchasing behavior. As the cost of imported goods rises, consumers who previously relied on low-cost items from platforms like Temu may turn to second-hand markets or local retailers, which could foster a resurgence in traditional retail and thrift stores. This shift could paradoxically bolster local economies and encourage more sustainable consumption patterns, even as consumers initially face higher prices. 3. Supply chain adaptations. In response to the tariff changes, companies like Temu and Shein are already adjusting their supply chain strategies by establishing U.S. distribution centers and shipping larger quantities to American warehouses. This move may counteract some of the anticipated negative impacts of tariffs. As these companies enhance their logistics and fulfillment capabilities, they might be able to maintain competitive pricing despite the new tariffs. The effectiveness of these adaptations could lead to a surprising resilience in their business models, challenging the notion that tariffs will immediately cripple their operations. For e-commerce growth versus tariff impact. While tariffs are expected to dampen the growth of Chinese e-commerce companies, the overall e-commerce sector could continue to thrive as consumers adjust to new shopping habits. The convenience of online shopping may outweigh the higher costs associated with tariffs, especially if companies like Amazon continue to innovate and provide competitive alternatives. Thus, the long-term implications of tariffs might not stifle e-commerce growth but rather transform it, leading to a more diversified and competitive market landscape. 5. Illicit trade concerns. One of the key justifications for eliminating the de minimis threshold is the alleged facilitation of illicit trade, particularly fentanyl smuggling. However, the effectiveness of tariffs in combating such issues is questionable. By imposing tariffs, the U.S. may inadvertently push some transactions underground as consumers and sellers seek to evade costs. This could lead to an increase in black market activities, undermining the intended purpose of the tariff policy. 6. Economic disparities. The removal of the de minimis threshold disproportionately affects lower-income consumers who rely heavily on affordable products from platforms like Shein and Temu. The tariffs could exacerbate economic disparities as these consumers may struggle to find affordable alternatives in the face of rising prices. This counterintuitive outcome highlights the complexity of tariff policies, as the intended benefits for domestic industries can come at a significant cost to vulnerable populations. 7. Global supply chain reconfigurations. In the long term, the new tariff regime may prompt a re-evaluation of global supply chains as companies look to diversify their sourcing strategies to mitigate risks associated with tariffs. This could lead to a shift away from reliance on Chinese suppliers, potentially benefiting manufacturers in other countries. The unintended consequence may be a gradual shift in global trade dynamics, with emerging markets gaining a foothold in sectors previously dominated by Chinese e-commerce giants. In conclusion, while the immediate expectation is that the U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports will lead to higher prices and reduced competition for e-commerce platforms like Temu, Shein and Taobao, several counterintuitive outcomes may emerge. These include potential benefits for U.S. retailers, shifts in consumer behavior towards second-hand markets, resilience of supply chains, continued growth of e-commerce, and unintended consequences related to illicit trade and economic disparities. The true impact of these tariffs will unfold over time, revealing a more intricate and nuanced landscape than initially anticipated. The recent announcement by President Donald Trump regarding the implementation of a 10% tariff on imports from China alongside the abolition of the de minimis threshold is a pivotal moment in U.S. trade policy that many may overlook in its broader implications. The significance of these changes extends beyond the immediate economic impact and touches upon various aspects of domestic consumption, international trade dynamics, and even social equity. Below are key points from the report that are likely to be overlooked, along with explanations of their significance. 1. Impact on e-commerce dynamics. While the immediate focus is on the effect of tariffs on companies like Temu and Shein, the broader implications for e-commerce dynamics in the U.S. are profound. The de minimis exemption had allowed Chinese retailers to offer low prices that directly competed with American retailers. By eliminating this loophole, the tariffs could shift consumer behavior and market preferences significantly. Significance: this change could lead to a consolidation of market power among U.S.-based retailers, particularly giants like Amazon, who may now regain pricing power in sectors where they were previously undercut by Chinese competitors. The potential increase in reliance on American e-commerce could reshape the competitive landscape, possibly leading to higher prices for consumers in the long term. 2. Consumer price sensitivity and low-income implications. The report highlights that low-income consumers heavily relied on the low-cost offerings made possible through the de minimis rule. With the introduction of tariffs, these consumers may face increased prices for everyday goods. Significance: this aspect underscores a critical social equity issue. The tariffs could disproportionately affect those already struggling financially, leading to a broader discussion about the role of trade policy in exacerbating income inequality. Policymakers may need to consider measures to mitigate these impacts on vulnerable populations, which could be overlooked in the rush to enforce trade regulations. 3. The role of customs enforcement and public health concerns. The administration's justification for abolishing the de minimis threshold includes enhancing customs enforcement capabilities, particularly concerning illicit substances like fentanyl. This public health angle adds another layer to the discussion. Significance: the intertwining of trade policy with public health concerns signifies a growing recognition of how trade mechanisms can be utilized to address domestic challenges beyond economics. The ability to control the flow of potentially dangerous substances suggests that future trade policies might increasingly integrate health and safety considerations, a connection that may not be fully appreciated in economic analyses alone. 4. Strategic shifts by e-commerce giants. Companies like Temu and Shein are not merely passive recipients of these policy changes but are actively adjusting their strategies in response. For instance, Temu is moving towards bulk shipping and establishing U.S. warehouses. Significance: this proactive adaptation illustrates the resilience and agility of e-commerce firms in the face of regulatory changes. It highlights that businesses will not only comply with new rules but will also innovate in their operational strategies to maintain competitiveness. This aspect of corporate strategy may be overlooked in discussions focused solely on the tariff's immediate impact. 5. Long-term economic consequences of tariff policies. While the report outlines the immediate effects of the tariff changes, the long-term economic repercussions are crucial to consider. The tariffs could lead to retaliatory measures from China and other affected countries, which could escalate into a broader trade conflict. Significance: the potential for a trade war could have severe implications for global supply chains, further driving up costs and causing disruptions. These long-term considerations are essential for understanding the full scope of the decision and may not be fully captured in short-term analyses focused on specific companies or sectors. 6. Shift in global trade relationships. The elimination of the de minimis threshold and the imposition of tariffs signal a shift in the U.S.'s approach to global trade, particularly with China. This change reflects a broader trend of increasing protectionism that has been observed in recent years. Significance: the ramifications of this shift could be felt far beyond the immediate parties involved. Global markets may respond with increased volatility, and the U.S. could find itself more isolated in its trade relationships. This geopolitical angle, while crucial, may not receive the attention it warrants amid the focus on domestic economic impacts. 7. Potential for increased illegal trade. By tightening regulations and increasing tariffs, there is a risk that some consumers and businesses may turn to illegal means to obtain goods without incurring higher costs. Significance: this potential increase in illegal trade could create new challenges for enforcement agencies and exacerbate issues related to product safety and consumer protection. Policymakers may need to consider additional resources and strategies to combat this potential rise in illicit activities, which could be overlooked in the discussion of tariff impacts. Conclusion: the recent tariff announcement and the abolition of the de minimis threshold represent a significant shift in U.S. trade policy with far-reaching implications. While the immediate focus may be on specific companies and consumer prices, understanding the broader impacts on e-commerce dynamics, social equity, public health, long-term economic consequences, global trade relationships, and the potential for increased illegal trade is essential. These aspects are critical not only for comprehensively assessing the policy's impact but also for anticipating future challenges and opportunities in the evolving landscape of international trade. 1. Impact on e-commerce dynamics. The abolition of the de minimis exemption and the implementation of a 10% tariff on Chinese imports will significantly alter the competitive landscape of the U.S. e-commerce market. Platforms like Temu and Shein, which have thrived under the de minimis rule by offering low-cost products directly to consumers, will face increased operational costs. This shift might benefit U.S.-based retailers such as Amazon, which could reclaim market share lost to Chinese competitors. The tariff regime, therefore, not only affects pricing for consumers but also reshapes market competition and strategies among e-commerce giants. 2. Consumer price sensitivity. The new tariffs are likely to increase prices for consumers, particularly impacting low-income shoppers who rely on affordable products from platforms like Shein and Temu. With the de minimis exemption eliminated, the cost structure for these retailers changes, leading to potential price hikes that could deter budget-conscious consumers from purchasing. This shift emphasizes the importance of understanding consumer behavior and price elasticity in response to tariff-induced cost increases. 3. Regulatory and enforcement justifications. The U.S. government's rationale for abolishing the de minimis rule centers on concerns about lost tariff revenue and the difficulty in inspecting packages for illegal goods, particularly fentanyl. This policy decision highlights the intersection of trade policy and law enforcement, suggesting a broader narrative where trade regulations are increasingly used as tools to address domestic issues like drug trafficking. The implications of this dual purpose warrant further examination, particularly regarding how trade policies can affect public safety and regulatory enforcement. 4. Strategic adaptations by e-commerce platforms. In response to the impending tariffs, companies such as Temu and Shein are already adapting their business models. Temu has shifted to bulk shipping to U.S. warehouses, while Shein has established distribution centers within the U.S. These strategic adaptations reflect the resilience of e-commerce businesses in the face of regulatory changes and the need for continuous innovation to maintain competitiveness. Analyzing these adaptations can provide insights into how e-commerce platforms navigate regulatory challenges and consumer demands in a dynamic market environment. 1. Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act 1930. This U.S. legislation raised tariffs on over 20,000 imported goods, significantly impacting international trade. The act aimed to protect American industries during the Great Depression but instead led to retaliatory tariffs from other countries, exacerbating the economic downturn and contributing to a decline in global trade. The Smoot-Hawley Act is often cited as a pivotal moment that illustrates the dangers of protectionist trade policies. 2. Section 301 Trade Actions 2018. The Trump administration imposed tariffs on Chinese imports as part of a broader strategy to confront China's trade practices, including intellectual property theft. This action included tariffs that escalated to 25% on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of goods. The move aimed to reshape trade relations and protect U.S. interests but led to significant tensions between the U.S. and China, affecting global supply chains and resulting in retaliatory tariffs from China on U.S. products. 3. Battle of the Titans, US-EU trade dispute over bananas 1999 to 2009. This trade dispute centered around the European Union's banana import regime, which favored Caribbean producers over Latin American ones. The U.S. challenged this regime, claiming it unfairly restricted access for American companies like Chiquita and Dole. The conflict involved various trade negotiations and retaliatory tariffs, demonstrating how trade policies can ignite international disputes and impact global markets. The World Trade Organization eventually ruled in favor of the U.S., leading to reforms in the EU's banana import policies. The recent decision by the U.S. government to impose a 10% tariff on Chinese imports and eliminate the $800 de minimis exemption has significant implications for the future of e-commerce and international trade dynamics. The impact of these tariffs, effective February 3, 2025, will not only affect companies like Temu, Shein and Taobao but also reshape consumer behavior, domestic retail strategies and international trade relations. Predicted outcomes of the tariff implementation. 1. Impact on e-commerce giants. Increased costs for consumers. The elimination of the de minimis threshold will likely lead to higher prices for consumers who previously benefited from low-cost imports. E-commerce platforms like Temu and Shein, which thrived on offering inexpensive products directly from China, may see a decline in demand as prices rise to accommodate the new tariffs. Shift in business models. Companies may pivot from direct shipping to consumers to bulk shipping to U.S. warehouses to mitigate tariff impacts. Temu has already begun this transition, indicating a shift towards a more traditional retail model. This could lead to longer lead times and potentially higher prices, altering the consumer shopping experience. 2. Resilience and adaptation of Chinese retailers. Innovation in supply chain management. E-commerce platforms will likely invest in warehousing and logistics within the U.S. to maintain competitiveness. This adaptation could lead to the emergence of more sophisticated supply chain solutions in partnerships with third-party logistics providers. Focus on quality and compliance. As scrutiny of imports increases, companies may prioritize compliance with U.S. regulations, enhancing product safety measures and transparency in their supply chains. 3. Competitive landscape. U.S. retailers gaining ground. American companies like Amazon, eBay, and Walmart may benefit from reduced competition as Chinese retailers face challenges due to tariffs. This could result in a shift in market share towards U.S.-based platforms that are better positioned to adapt to the new regulatory environment. Potential for price wars. As competition heats up among U.S. retailers trying to attract cost-conscious consumers, there could be aggressive pricing strategies employed to capture market share, leading to a price war that may affect profit margins across the board. 4. Economic ramifications. Inflationary pressures. The increased costs of imported goods could contribute to broader inflationary trends in the U.S. economy, impacting consumer spending and overall economic growth. Lower-income households, which frequently rely on affordable goods from platforms like Temu and Shein, may be disproportionately affected. Shift in trade relationships. The tariff implementation may lead to retaliatory measures from China and other affected countries, potentially escalating trade tensions. This could further complicate international trade relations and lead to a re-evaluation of supply chains that have relied heavily on cheap imports.
5. Consumer behavior changes.
Increased price sensitivity. As consumers face higher prices, there may be a shift in purchasing behavior towards more value-oriented products or domestic brands. This could lead to a resurgence of interest in local products and brands that can offer competitive pricing without the added tariffs. Adoption of alternative shopping channels. Consumers may explore other shopping avenues, including local businesses or secondhand markets, as they seek to mitigate the impact of rising prices on their budgets.
6. Long-term trade policy outlook.
Possible reassessment of tariff strategies if the tariffs lead to significant economic disruptions.
There may be pressure on the U.S. government to reassess its trade policies and consider negotiations to reduce or eliminate certain tariffs. This could open the door for new trade agreements or amendments to existing ones.
Continued focus on customs enforcement. As the U.S. government emphasizes customs enforcement, particularly concerning illegal substances like fentanyl, there may be increased investments in customs technology and personnel to enhance inspection capabilities.
Conclusion.
As the U.S. implements these tariffs and abolishes the de minimis exemption, the future landscape of e-commerce and international trade will undergo significant transformation. The immediate effects will be felt by consumers, retailers, and manufacturers alike, prompting shifts in business strategies, consumer behavior, and potentially even government policy.
The adaptability of companies to these changes will be crucial in determining their success in the evolving market environment, as well as the overall health of the economy in the years to come.